Hey everyone. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to, using Pixlr, get your abstract art going. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and click on Create New. Now if you're one of my students in the class, I gave you two options. You can either use this template here, Square HD, and that'll give you a nice square size canvas. If you would rather a more rectangular canvas, you can go ahead and do the full HD. You can go ahead and either turn on the background or leave it off. I'm going to leave it off and press create. Okay, so let's zoom out so we can see everything. So a couple of tips that I like to do when I'm starting almost any digital artwork. Let me go ahead and get the brush tool there. And one thing you want to do is you want to get rid of the emptiness here. Now if I had a white canvas, I would go ahead and color it anyway. So I'm going to come up here to the brush picker, and I like to start off with a big chunky square brush. So if I come on out here, let me change my color. And when doing abstract work, I find it easier when you start off with a limited palette. So I'm going to go ahead and just start drawing that in. Now I don't really like the way that it's responding. So I'm going to go ahead and undo a couple times. And a couple suggestions. You want to lower the step when you're using a big chunky brush. And that way you'll see that there's no stepping. I get this nice curved edge. And then next is I would actually come up here and you can change the size of the brush or the shape of the brush and make it more of a rectangle. And then you can also click and drag on the arrowhead here, and you can make some interesting shapes here. So I can do like a 45-degree angle, and I can get kind of a nice chiseled brush response. And then last but not least, if you try lowering the opacity, you can get something that actually kind of builds up. So it feels a little bit more like a natural big brush. And so if I go in here and change my color a little bit, again I can build up. And usually I'll go ahead and I'll find some sort of a warm gray, maybe lower the opacity a little bit, and just start filling in the canvas here. Some of this will end up getting completely covered up, be opaque, and some of this will still poke through. It's another way to just kind of loosen up, get your eyes and get your brain warmed up and going. And just sort of get the fear out, if that makes any sense. Go. Maybe warm it up a little bit, something around here. And because I'm doing this with low opacity, you'll see that, again, the colors going over it with a kind of a neutral gray. Kind of a warm gray. And I'll kind of finish it off with sort of a bluish gray. Something like that. There we go. So I find that this is a good way to just get some colors on the paper and get your eyes used to everything. Soften some of those lines a little bit so they're not quite so computer generated. And it just kind of sneaks up on you. Okay, so once I've done that, now I can go ahead and I can really maybe choose my more saturated colors. I'm changing my brush size by using the comma key, and then I increase the brush size by using the period key. I'll play around with the opacity now. empty layer. And just get some shapes in there. All right, so now I want to start adding in some texture. Everything starts to feel computer generated and just I need it to feel a little bit more traditional. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add in some textures. So for instance, one thing I can do is I can go look up the term paint smear, and then I can choose transparent background. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this one. This one will go to a website called PNG Find, and that's a good website. There's a lot of ads here, and you'll see download right here, and you'll see download right here. The actual download to get to this here is actually right here where it says free download. And then it's going to generate a link, and if I hit download, it then brings me to a new page, and I have to click on this download, and then it gets it. So yeah, so that's kind of annoying, but it's free, so I can't complain. Now I'll go back here and I'll click on add layer. I'll do image layer, and I'll go ahead and I'll find my smudge there and smear, and there it is. You can now go ahead and see it. So the cool thing I can do now is I've got this nice textured layer here. I can click and rotate the dot, and I can change the direction. So maybe I want to go a little more vertical like that. I, of course, can scale it down by clicking and dragging on it. Let's say I just don't like that color. I can go up here to adjustment, hue and saturation, and you'll see that if I drag the hue slider left and right, I'm going to get all different kinds. Maybe a little more purple. I can increase the saturation or decrease the saturation. And of course I can play around with the lightness. I can choose colorize and get a whole different effect. I'm not crazy about it. All right, so I'm going to go a little more towards purple. Press apply. Then if I go to the layer menu, I can of course lower the transparency if I want. Let me move that over some things so you can see the transparency there. And then I can go to the blend mode and change that to different things. So there's multiply, screen, overlay. So there's a bunch there that you can just try and play around with and see what you get. So maybe that. Play around with the opacity a little bit. And you just start bringing in textures. So I suggest doing that early on in your abstract piece, is bringing in some smears, some brush strokes. Try to find the ones that do have transparent backgrounds. If you can't find any that have transparent backgrounds, you can try using Pixlr's cutout tool, which is the scissors here, but that's just going to give you more work to do, of course. All right, I'm going to go ahead and try one more here. So unfortunately, sometimes I was trying to download this brushstroke here because I really liked it, but I clicked on this free download, this one, and they just kept adding, they just kept going to ads. So yeah, unfortunately, you're just not going to find which one you want. I'm going to go ahead and try to successfully grab one more. Okay, so I'm downloading this orange paint here, and I had to do the same thing where I had to look through a whole bunch of download buttons. I downloaded something. Let's add it as an image layer and see what I got. Okay, so it's a true PNG. You can see it's transparent, so that's cool. And it adds in more texture. I like this nice thick impasto kind of paint. So maybe I'll do something like, just leave it like that. Again, I can do the hue and saturation, and I can change it. Maybe we'll go more towards a blue. Now, if you wanted to make it white, watch this. I'll go here to adjustment, desaturate, that pulls out the color. then adjustment, brightness and contrast, and I'll go ahead and I'll brighten it. I'll increase the contrast so it gets a little brighter and whiter, right? And you can see those shadows there a little bit. Okay, I'll say apply. Now if I add on another empty layer and I go back to my paintbrush and I paint with maybe some light yellow. So you see that the yellow is completely covering up the white, but when I go over here to the layer and I change the blend mode to overlay, you'll see that now I'm getting to be able to see that white through there, and it kind of almost looks like the yellow is now having some texture there, so it's kind of tinted there. And I can even go in with an eraser and I can erase out the yellow there. So it's just around there, and so it's kind of giving a light little color tint to the to that color there. So you could do something like that. I could put this underneath the blue. Could change the blue to overlay. Or multiply. And you'll see I'm getting some of those rich textures right there. Okay, so this is how I would go ahead for our class project, how I would go ahead and just get started with your canvas and get some paint colors laid down there, get all your layers in there, and then start bringing in some texture. You can bring in textures from newspaper clippings and images of concrete and rust and nature. There's lots of really great possibilities. And just get some nice color and contrast on the canvas, and you'll have no problems getting started. All right, good luck.